Part 2. Last week we started talking about the 1954 double murder of Marilyn Sheppard and her 4-month-old fetus. Sam was proving to be a useless witness, having to have been knocked out twice by a bushy-haired stranger.
How much did it cost you?
10 years.
Oh, in money, sir.
Money could not possibly repay me.
He was on strong narcotic painkillers in the hospital. Blood splatter was found on the wall and closet door. All was below the doorknob, bed level or lower. Interestingly, there was no splatter on the ceiling. This pattern made investigators to think that the blows were falling in a horizontal motion across the bed versus vertical motion from head to foot. It was also thought the attacker had been standing to the side or between the beds as he was striking the blows. Was the door to the room open? Seems that may have been the case, since little Sam was asleep in a room close by. The house had been ransacked. Sam's trophies had been smashed on the ground. Marilyn's watch was covered in blood. The watch was removed after the attack and dropped on the ground. Both Marilyn and Sam's desks had been searched. Drawers had been yanked out of the dresser. Was it a stage scene? I think that someone who has done this before wouldn't pull out the drawers. They would go from bottom to top and limit the number of movements. Paul Holes actually agrees, saying the stranger is moving quick. Most people wouldn't think to go through it this way.
Why, the man is completely unemotional. He says that someone came into the house while he was sleeping on a downstairs couch.
The next day, investigators find a green bag on the bluff heading towards Lake Erie. The bag found discarded under a bush was determined to have belonged to the Sheppards. No blood was found on the bag. It contained valuables including Sam's watch, which was stopped at 4:15, and waterlogged, an onyx class ring, a keychain with charms on it. Was the items in bag easily accessible? During the investigation, the police kept coming back to Sam. Why? Because it is always the husband. The crime scene seemed odd. The body was positioned weird in the bed. The concussion made was that no one had been there. It was only the husband. Something was not adding up. A trail of blood leading downstairs and out of the house. Where did the trail come from? Was it dripping from the weapon or from an injured person? There was no sign of struggle, no obvious signs of sexual assault. Pieces of teeth were found in the bed. Sam's fingerprint on the headboard, but it was not bloody. On July 22nd, Dr. Gerber held an inquest. Less than 20 days after the death, it was determined that Sam did have a motive for killing Marilyn. He was having affairs. Sam originally publicly denied them, but eventually admitted to at least one. Gerber concluded Sam did it. He was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. Through it all, Sam kept saying, "I didn't kill my wife." This quote even became memorable in the movie, being uttered by Harrison Ford at pivotal points.
I didn't kill my wife!
The Cleveland Press ran over 400 articles in the 6 months following the murder, all of which implicated Sam as the killer. During this time, though, Sam had not even been to trial yet. The press had decided that Sam was the killer, and it was the only option. Was Sam the most likely suspect? The judge wouldn't move or delay the trial. Denying these motions are never a good idea by a judge, since it opens up verdicts to appeals. Prosecutors were framing Sam as a lying adulterer in an unhappy marriage, did not want another baby, so he killed his wife. As I touched on earlier, Sam did not admit to having affairs right away. It was only during the trial that he admits to at least one affair. It's never a good idea to lie to police or the public. It is always better for you to be truthful, no matter how embarrassing. Susan Hayes, the woman Sam was having an affair with, was interviewed by police and even testified at trial. She was asked if Sam disliked his wife. She answered, he loved her very much, but not so much as a wife. Does this mean he loved her as a friend, but not as a wife or partner? Stranger killings are not unheard of. For the prosecution to say the main reason that it must be the husband is that the family dog was not heard barking. A dog not barking is not definitive proof that a stranger or less familiar person was not in the house killing Marilyn. Paul Holes again agreed, using his work on Golden State Killer as support. Sam's story has not changed. It didn't have many facts, and was an easy story to remember if it was a lie. Police were maybe thinking not many details make it much easier to stick to a story. At trial, an odd blood stain on her pillow was thought to have been caused by a medical tool. What was it? Could it be determined from the stain? On December 21st, 1954, 6 months after the murder, the verdict was passed down. Sam was found guilty of second-degree murder. It doesn't make sense to me. Wouldn't it be manslaughter, a spur-of-the-moment killing? He was sentenced to life in a maximum security prison outside Columbus. In January of 1955, Sheppard's attorney reached out to a Bay Area criminologist, Paul Kurtz, who spent time working out of UC Berkeley. Oscar Hemridge announced Heimridge. Kate Winkler Dawson found a letter with pronunciation, consulted with Kurtz, eventually obtaining a 19-page report that indicated Sam was not the killer. The report stated evidence based on the blood splatter pattern indicated that the attacker was left-handed and Sam was right-handed. An ABO blood typing test was done on the blood stain by the door. Up to this point, no one ran any tests on it. It was found to not be the same blood type as Sam or Marilyn. Kurt had a new theory that Marilyn's teeth may have come out from biting her attacker. The murder weapon was thought to be a cylindrical object like a pipe or a flashlight, not a heavy medical instrument. Interestingly, a year after the murder, a swimmer found a dented flashlight in the water of Lake Erie. Over and over, Sam's team filed to get a new trial based on Kurt's findings. The 8th District Ohio Court denied it. In the early 60s, Sam started writing Ariana, a German woman he eventually married, while in prison. The TV show The Fugitive starts its run in '63. It is widely believed to be based on this case. The show seems to help change people's perspective of the case. Media helped to change the way people see a case in true crime genre. In November 1959, police arrest Richard Eberling for larceny. Investigators searched his home and found a pretty little cocktail ring. The ring was one of the items missing from Sheppard's home, where he had a window washer. When was the ring stolen? How often had he been in the house? When asked about the ring, Robert said that he found the ring at Sam's brother's house in a box marked Marilyn Personal Items. Why was he going through boxes in someone else's house? When investigators asked Stanley and Sam about the box, neither one remembered the existence of such a box, but Sam identified the ring as having belonged to Marilyn. Police believe that Sam has a motive to make Eberling a possible suspect. Richard was told by police that there was a large amount of blood at the scene of Marilyn's death. Richard has an explanation for that ready to go. He said that he had cut himself at the house in the days leading up to the murder. Police don't believe him. It is possible for blood to have been deposited at a crime scene a day or two before a crime taking place, and that his blood and Marilyn's blood will look the same to crime scene techs, and taking a polygraph coming back inconclusive. So investigators cleared Robert even though polygraphs are not a reliable test. Anyone can beat the box. Sam keeps filing multiple appeals, having them denied. Tired of being denied, Sam hired a new lawyer. He hired F. Lee Bailey. Upon taking on the case, he accused the judge of not protecting the case in 1954. By not allowing a change of venue and postponing the trial, he won, being granted a retrial in 1966. By November of 1966, a verdict came back as not guilty. Due to the space between the murders and trial, the jurors were not as familiar with the case, and the same evidence was represented from the original trial. In 1967, the medical board reinstated Dr. Sheppard's medical license. Within months of being able to operate again, Dr. Sheppard sued for the deaths of 2 people in the operating room. The next year in 1968, his second wife divorces him, starting the downward spiral into drug and alcohol addiction. He marries again for the 3rd time and tries a short career as a pro wrestler, nicknamed The Killer. On April 6, 1970, Sam Sheppard was found dead at his home from liver failure at 46 years old. Was it due to alcoholism? Sam Reese Sheppard, Little Sam, has worked to clear his father's name. He even wrote a book about the case called Mockery of Justice. In 1984, Richard Eberling kills an elderly woman in a case similar to that of Marilyn Sheppard. He even killed the woman's sister years earlier. For this murder, he is found guilty and dies in prison in 1998. Advances in DNA helps to reopen the case in '97. The tests were done by the DNA tech manager at the Indianapolis-Marion County Forensic Services Agency, and they first ran tests on semen that was found on the vaginal swab collected during the autopsy of Marilyn. The coroner at the time had never tested the fluids, whether he missed it, forgot to, or just refused to. Who the heck knows? After testing it around 1995, it was run against James, a relative of Eberling who shares genetic markers with both the blood and semen found at the scene and in the body. In '98, the DNA was run again. This time, Sam was excluded. These discoveries were found only because in '96 they wanted to get a DNA profile for the victim from the epithelial cells on the vaginal swab. In the process, they find a small amount of semen. These results were done in the early days of DNA testing and are not conclusive by today's standards. If there is still usable DNA, it could be tested and genealogy could be done to find closure for Marilyn, Sam, and their family.
Paul Holmes, Dorothy Kilgallen, many others, a lot of local people, news people, television people, realized what a phony thing it was and how I was absolutely not proven guilty.
This is Grimworld, out.